House Finance Committee will come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Stewart.
Here.
Davila. Present. Sweeney. Abrams.
Here.
Baker. Byrd.
Here.
Calendar.
I tried to get through the emails, but I think so.
Glassburn.
Here.
Grimm.
Here.
Hall.
Here.
Hoops. Isaacson. Geralds. John. Johnson.
Here.
Jones. Manning. Pickle-Antonio. Plummer. Ray. Ritter's excused. Robinson.
Present.
Romer. Schmidt. Sims.
Here.
Thomas. Troy. White. Williams. Willis.
Here.
Young.
We have a quorum present, so we will continue as a full committee. The first order of business is to approve the minutes from the previous committee. Without objection, the minutes will be approved. Hearing no objections, the minutes are approved and are part of the record. Before we get started, I just want to look back on our schedule here. I think our first Finance Committee meeting on February 4th, we laid out what the planned schedule was going to be. At that time, we said it was our hope that on April 8th, we would meet and adopt the omnibus amendment. It is April 8th, and we are on track to later today adopt the omnibus amendment and then vote on the House Bill 96 on the floor. So I want to thank all the members for helping us stay on that schedule, meet all those deadlines, and stick to the plan. We are going to break today at 9:45 so that both caucuses can meet in caucus. We will resume at 2 p.m. With the intention of having a vote on the omnibus amendment. But before we do, we have a few more witnesses this morning, and I will now call up House Bill 96 for its 7th hearing. And up first to provide testimony is Amy Alberi. Is Amy here? We will move on to Tony Love. Is Tony here? Melinda Whitten. Might be done earlier than we thought. Is Tony Seegers here? I thought I saw Tony. Boy, oh boy. All right. Angie Hamburg. Angie's here. All right. Welcome to committee. The floor is yours.
Member Sweeney and members of the House Finance Committee, I'd like to give a special good morning to our representative, Pickle-Antonio, for the Westerville City Schools. I'm Angie Hamberg. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony today on the state's budget. I'm the superintendent for the Westerville City School District, which is located here in Franklin County and also in Delaware County. Our district serves nearly 15,000 students and employs nearly 2,000 people and spans multiple municipalities. We take pride in our highly diverse community and our commitment to providing a high-quality education for all of our students. Our student demographics include 16% special education, 23% gifted, and nearly 11% of our students are English learners. Over 43% of our students and their families are economically disadvantaged, yet we're still considered a wealthy suburban district under the Ohio school funding formula. Our treasurer, Nicole Marshall, has testified twice already during this budget season, but I'm here today to again emphasize the importance of funding of our public schools. I would like to thank the House for the additions that were added to the governor's proposal, which would have had us losing funding over the biennium. While this change was really helpful to most districts, as I talked to my colleagues around the state, many of us have grave concerns about the amendment that would require the auditor to suspend property tax collections for any district with a cash balance over 25%. As you're aware, many districts are in a unique position with higher than usual cash balances for a variety of reasons. For us, it's not due to reappraisals because we are not on the 20 mil floor. So due to House Bill 920, we are not seeing the huge surge in property tax collections. Our balance is from being able to pay positions that we were able to pay out of ESSER funding. As we've been shifting those positions back to our general fund, we are deficit spending year over year by over $20 million throughout the life of our forecast. We appreciate the work on the fair funding plan, which provides a strong foundation for our funding. However, without fully updating those cost inputs to meet inflation, we are seeing a decrease in our funding, and we have seen a need to use our cash as a stopgap. So in this school year alone, we lost $4 million on our state share, and so we were able to use our cash to help with that deficit. Our funding formula currently only accounts for inflationary increases on the local wealth calculation, and because it wasn't fully implemented, we've lost the opportunity for over $29 million in revenue over the time period. So while we saw a decrease in our state funding, we actually had an increase of 124 new students this year. And again, we had strategically planned to use that cash as a stopgap over the life of our forecast until we could secure additional funding through a levy. We placed a levy on the ballot in November with plans to use some of our cash to accompany a small no new millage bond to address some of our buildings from the 1960s. We have about 30 facilities, 25 that house students. Many of them are aging and have a lot of facility needs. When our ballot issue failed, we decided to move our cash back to our operating fund to help keep our 5-year forecast in the black. Even with that shift, we've had to eliminate positions and reduce budgets to keep our yearly deficit, to kind of decrease that deficit. Our cash balance is a big part of our plan over the life of our 5-year forecast, and it keeps us with a positive unreserved cash balance so we're able to sign longer contracts. With our cash balance and the reductions we've made, we are in the black until 2029. Under the new amendment, our treasurer predicts that we would quickly run out of cash, would have to make major cuts to programming, unless we continue to successfully ask for small, regular levies. We would anticipate having to be on the ballot yearly, and quite frankly, I am skeptical that we would be very successful in that effort. Our cash is not sitting in the bank because we don't need it. We have many needs across our district, including technology, curricular materials, building maintenance, parking lot and playground equipment replacement, just to name a few. We're not using our cash to take care of those needs because we need it for recurring operations over the life of the forecast. Only looking at a year of the forecast and reducing collections based on that cash balance in the first year is not in alignment with how most districts have to plan and operate. With declining revenue growth and increasing student needs, our financial model is unsustainable. No business can function by reducing revenue while increasing services. The only Band-Aid we have right now is our cash balance, and like many districts, losing it abruptly would be catastrophic for us. Thank you for your time, and I welcome any questions that you may have.
Questions from the committee? Rep. Piccola-Antonio.
Thank you, Chair Stewart. Thank you, Superintendent Hamburg, for being here, and thank you to Treasurer for being here last week. I know that you have done a lot of listening sessions in the community in partnership with your city elected officials and your Chamber of Commerce. Can you talk about the kind of things that you've heard from community members as you've done those educational and listening sessions?
Yes, thank you. We had a great opportunity. Our chamber hosted a session with some of our legislators, and Treasurer Marshall and I attended, and quite frankly did not need to bring up school funding because our community members and some of our locally elected officials actually brought up their concern about making sure that our schools are adequately funded and that we're able to continue to provide that service in our community. You know, I think as we're out talking with the business professionals and the elected officials in our community, there's a recognition that we all need to partner together, that strong schools help to keep a strong community, and so they're definitely advocating to make sure that we continue to be able to offer the services to our students.
Follow up.
Thanks, Chair. I guess the other question that I have for you, I know that you have been in Westerville for a couple years now, but you've also served in different school districts that are structured differently. Are you able to talk about just the differences that you see and how the decisions that we make here impact differently in different communities?
Thank you. That's a great question. And actually, I just finished up my first year at Westerville, so I've only been there a year. So have learned a lot in a year because, to your point, the district I was in previously was a district that was on the 20 mil floor that had an income tax, and we are not on the 20 mil floor in Westerville and don't have an income tax. So Obviously, I would say we used our cash in different ways because it's very, very challenging to pass levies. I think you all know that. We use a lot of time and resources to try to pass levies that are diverted away from our core work. And so I don't know any administrators that want to be on the ballot. We would rather just have a stable and secure funding and not have to look at that. So there's a lot of concern. Again, I think regardless of the way it's structured, in Westerville, because we are not on the 20 mil floor with House Bill 920, we see our residents' taxes in flux a lot when there's a reappraisal. So we're not seeing a huge influx of additional tax revenue, but the shifting occurs. And so depending on how people's homes appraise compared to other homes in the area, they may see an increase or a decrease in their taxes. But the perception is that we are getting a lot more in local taxes, when in reality, the increase that we got from the reappraisals, even though the reappraisals were very high in Franklin and Delaware counties, we only saw about 2.7 million in increases in our property tax, and we saw 4 million decrease in our state tax. So our net effect was actually a decrease, but the perception in our community was that we got a huge influx of additional property tax due to the reappraisals.
Other questions? Rep. Glassburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I recognize you're a superintendent, not a treasurer, but could you address one of the more mundane but I think important elements of school funding, of that you get the payments for the real estate taxes once every 6 months. You have to pay out over those 6 months. How much does your cash balance drop within each 6 month period?
So we spend about $638,000 a day in our district. And again, we're a larger suburban. I believe we're the 11th largest in the state. So, you know, the scale of that, obviously you're dealing with large scale numbers here, but as a school district, the scale of that is big. And so as we look at our payroll and making that payroll over the course of 6 months, we definitely, if you look at cash that we have at a certain point in the year and cash that we have at the end of the year, it's a very different number. I couldn't tell you the exact amount of drop like our treasurer could, but it's, there's definitely a cash flow piece to it as we look at the settlements that we get from taxes.
Follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So that from that peak at the beginning of the 6 months to the drop, is that more than 25% of your budget? It would have to by definition, because it's half your expenses for a year.
Yeah, I mean, our salary and benefits are about 82% of our budget. So when you think about the significance of that.
Thank you.
Other questions? Rep. Hoops.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here. This 25% thing, I mean, I do have an issue with that. But we'll go into that later. But I guess my question is, do you ever talk to during a board meeting about your carryover? And what do you report when you talk about that carryover? It's not something that you're hiding under a bushel or something, but you're letting the public know what you have, and what do you say and what do you do?
We are, and our treasurer does. I know she was here last week speaking to you. She does a phenomenal job of helping with that. We actually have a finance committee that has a lot of our community members on it, members of the chamber and the business community, and they helped us craft a cash balance policy. And typically it's more, and I'm not a treasurer, as you indicated, but more best practice of that being more of a minimum to make sure we have enough cash on hand to weather through levy cycles, to weather through cash flow. But yes, we talk about that all the time. And as I mentioned, we have not received any of the Ohio Facilities Commission money yet because we are not eligible due to our wealth factor yet. We have participated in the expedited local partnership where we're able to bank some credit. So we have $25 million in credit banked, which is money that our taxpayers have paid for locally to renovate older buildings and to build an additional facility that we needed for enrollment. And so we have some credit that we have banked that we can hopefully apply toward a future project. But in the meantime, we are using some of that money, and we've been very transparent about that, to try to take care of our buildings, to buy technology. We are still not one-to-one. We were getting ready to move forward with that. When we failed our levy, we were concerned as we look at our deficit then for operations throughout the life of the forecast. So that cash again became part of the plan of how do we pay the bills from year to year? It's basically, when I explain it to the community or to our staff, it's like our paycheck has dropped a little, our bills have gone up, and so we're dipping into Aunt Edna's inheritance to pay the bills a little bit each month. So that's kind of how we use our cash.
Follow
Follow
up?
up? Yeah.
What about, do you have like a rating, a AAA rating? And how does this cash balance affect or could affect your rating? You know, I guess what is your rating, and if something like this 25% would take place, how would it affect your rating?
So we are AAA. The last time that we sold bonds, we passed a bond issue in 2019 and sold bonds to build a new middle school and elementary. And that was part of, again, our plan to kind of do some replacement millage with this last cycle that failed. In Ohio, because of the stability of the property tax laws, typically, I have not for Westerville met with Moody's, but I did, as Representative Pickle-Antonio mentioned in my previous superintendency, had the opportunity to go through that process a couple of times. And they are definitely looking at what is your deficit? Do you have enough cash to back it up? How secure are your finances? And what is the reliability of your property tax base? So I would say, you know, certainly I'm not an expert in that area, but from my experiences and interacting in those rating meetings, I would say it plays a large role.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for coming today. I'm trying to get to understanding, I keep asking people from school districts, how much money do you need, right? And your district, I believe the budget's about 233 million approximately.
213.
And what's your carryover right now?
So we're about 161.
Okay, so you're at about 60%, probably something like that.
I think we're at 68.
And Moody's, when they're doing a review, they go through, whether it's a business or whatever, you're not the only people that get assessed like that. So if you have 160 million in reserves and 233 million budget, and you get a tight squeeze a couple months a year, how much money do you need? That's 160 and 233, and you're saying that you had to levy failed. How much money was that going to generate? I'm just trying to get a feel
Sure.
of how much money that you all need, because the inflationary figures on average that you use are about 5.8 to 5.9%, and that's unsustainable. So how much money does your district need?
Great question. So one of the issues that we are really struggling with that I haven't heard a lot of dialogue around is our costs, in particular for special education, have really escalated, and we're not seeing adequate funding there. This year alone, we had to add 8 specialized learning classrooms at our elementary level just to accommodate our preschoolers moving up. And these are not like just students with a reading disability that need a little extra support. These are students who are in a classroom with a required ratio of 8 students to 1 adult as a teacher, and then we have additional aides that we add. And so as we look at our costs, and we've had to add special education staff, we've had to add transportation staff to help with transporting our special needs students, including aides to help with caring for them on the buses. We are deficit spending. And so to answer your question, we need enough to cover, as we look at our 5-year forecast, we need to cover what we project we're going to spend in salaries and benefits and other costs to run the district. And so again, that cash, I can't tell you an exact number, but I can tell you that what we have in there now gets us through the 5-year forecast. If you were to take it back next year, we would immediately be out of money and have to be back on the ballot.
Follow up?
No.
Other questions? Andrew, Rep. White.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for coming in today. My question deals with, you said you added 8 units for these children who have special needs or are learning whatever. Could you explain more detail about what you're seeing and what you believe is the cause of that? And while we're at it, you know, how are you assessing kids with kindergarten preparation? And are you seeing any trends there? Thank you.
Sure, thank you for the question. We are seeing, and if any of you would ever like to visit our special needs preschool, which, as you all know, we are required to have, we also have peer models in there. We have a wonderful preschool. We are seeing more and more students with medical needs that come in. We are seeing more and more students with severe behavioral needs. That's across all levels. The huge increase I've seen in my career is the number of students at those little kids coming in with severe medical needs. And so they are needing, we have feeding tubes, we have all kinds of therapies and different things that we need to provide. And the ratio piece at the preschool is very cumbersome to make sure that we have enough adult supervision. We often struggle with finding enough staff to even be in there, but that is where we have seen a huge increase. And so we're seeing bigger classes leave. So we're not necessarily, we're fairly stagnant, as I said, across a district of almost 15,000 kids. We saw 124 new kids last year. So as you spread that out across 13 grades, not a huge significant increase, but we are seeing an increase in the types of needs that students have. It's not like, there are different categories of special education. And so when a child has a reading disability, typically, they're in a regular classroom for most of the day. They might get some reading intervention. There's a slight cost there, minimal. I'm talking about we're seeing, and as I talk to my colleagues in other districts, a huge uptick in severe behavioral needs where staff members get hurt. We have to look at outside placements for students. They're very costly, 6 figures just for the placement, the transportation on top of that. So those are the types of needs too, as you look at the big picture of school funding, I would really encourage you to look at. But those are the things that are, they're hard to plan for, and they continue to grow. Our team does a great job of trying to contain those costs wherever we can. We often have children move in who have IEPs that already require very restrictive environments, lots of additional support, and those things are costly.
Rep, do you have a follow-up? Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Our next witness will be Kathy Cowan-Becker. Is Julie Marino here? Welcome to committee. You may begin.
Thank you, Chair Stewart, Vice Chair Davila, Ranking Member Sweeney, and members of the House Finance Committee for the opportunity to testify on the importance of the Foster to College Scholarship Act, which I respectfully ask you to reconsider and include in the House budget bill. Last week, 10-year-old Priya, who I think you remember, she was about this tall, testified before this chamber about the bill and how it would allow her to go to college to become a nurse. Chair Stewart said that it was the best testimony we've seen all year. Today, Priya is back in her 4th grade classroom, and when we tell her that this funding was omitted, she'll be really disappointed. I'm here as a member of the Junior League of Columbus, seeking answers about why we'll have to deliver this extremely sad news. My name is Julia Marino, and I'm a postdoctoral scholar at The Ohio State University in National Security Studies. In my brief testimony, I'd like to highlight 3 areas. First, the Foster to College Scholarship Bill. Second, the urgency of passing it. And third, some questions that we in the Junior League have about the bill. First, the Foster to College Scholarship Bill. Core to the Junior League's mission here in Columbus is to help youth transition out of foster care, whether through our community service programs, our mentoring programs, or fundraising. We want these young people in our city to have every opportunity we'd want for our own children. Through my role on the Junior League's advocacy team, I've witnessed how many people in this chamber, in the league, and inspiring people throughout the state of Ohio who have fought for this bill with unwavering dedication for years. I've met amazing people like Jay Brown, who aged out of foster care in her 2nd semester at the University of Cincinnati, was forced to drop out upon her emancipation, and ended up homeless. As she recounted to the House Children's and Human Services Committee a few weeks ago, I've slept in my car, gone days without a shower, missed meals, and went hungry, all while being a single mom working multiple jobs. Yet she still graduated at the top of her class at the University of Cincinnati, joining just 3% of former foster youth who earn a bachelor's degree. I encourage you to read her testimony, along with Priya's and many, many others which we've submitted for the record today. I think the American dream depends in part on ensuring we don't forget young people who don't have parents to advocate for them. Which brings me to the second part of this testimony, why I think this bill is so important now. As you all know, we live in polarizing times. But for me, it's been moving upon moving to Columbus to see how many Ohioans of all different political parties roll up their sleeves to advocate for foster youth. When I talk about contemporary politics to my friends back home in New York, I tell them about meeting so many people of faith and people of goodwill here in Ohio who set aside their differences to stand up for these young people. Democracy flourishes when it delivers, when citizens see that their advocacy matters and that their government can work on their behalf. Yeah, for me, a young idealist, pretty young, it's easy to lose heart when something like HB 25 is left out of the budget. But as a historian, I know democracy requires persistence. So in the third part of my testimony, I'd like to ask you a few questions. The Junior League of Columbus is meeting tonight for our general membership meeting at the Public Library, main branch. And so 50 women will be there and waiting for an update on this bill. So I just wanted to ask a few questions. Why isn't the bill advancing, given its bipartisan support? My understanding is that 85 House members voted yes on it last year. And second, why isn't the bill advancing when Representative Andrea White noted at the House Children's Committee that it would probably save Ohio money in the long run? I learned that half of people who experience homelessness in our country had spent time in foster care. So now whenever I pass a homeless person, I wonder, would they still be homeless if we had provided them the tuition support to go to college, last dollar tuition support, after all federal grants have been applied? And third, if despite all this the bill fails, what do you recommend we as a junior league can do to continue supporting these students, especially a student who says to us, we'd like to attend college, but we don't have the means?
Thank you for your testimony. Questions from the committee? Representative Ray.
There we go, finally got it on. Thank you so much for being here and testifying. We talk so often about breaking the cycle of poverty. Do you think the Foster to Scholarship program would help to do that?
I do. I see that in the surveys of Ohio foster youth, the majority of them say they would like to attend college, and something is holding them back. I've worked for a time at a nonprofit called Come to Believe, which provides wraparound support and allows for two-year college students to, there are ways to help these students, and money is one of the main things holding them back. So if we can provide them that mentorship, that guidance, I understand that the bill includes funding for someone who can provide students the guidance on where to apply for aid, where to apply for these grants, so that money isn't the obstacle holding them back. In my own family, my aunt and uncle died suddenly a couple summers ago, and I've watched my cousins drop out of college after that, 2 of them. And it's really hard to get through college if you don't have parents to support you, even if you have a loving family all around you. And if money is the obstacle, it shouldn't be, because these kids have been through so much already. So yes, I think it would make a big difference. Thank you.
Follow up? Representative Gerald.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Julia, so much for coming in today. My question to you really is, I think probably the most important question I can ask is, if we don't do this, and we look at the students and the people that you are going to come in contact with and talk to who are in foster care, and they're navigating this challenge, what do you think that they will want to say to us as committee members? Obviously, from folks like Priya and so many others who've come into this body and told us about their experience, they really laid their heart on the table. And so, as someone who, you may be one of the last people that we talked to related to this issue, what do you think folks will want us to know as we're making these decisions on what's important in this budget?
I think back about Priya's testimony last week and how she was so just filled with hope and optimism. And she's too young to know that life is not going to give her everything she wants. And I mean, she definitely knows that, given her experiences. But she came here, she was so happy. Her foster mom was texting us, like she was on cloud nine. She felt so listened to, so supported. I think it's not every day a foster child gets high fives from 7 different representatives, and representatives are coming to talk to her, they're calling her. This is a bill that would make her dreams feel like they can continue. And I think she would just want to say to all of you, I thought we were on the same team. You high-fived me. Like, what's happening? I don't understand. I don't understand. So, yeah, to me, it just makes a lot of sense. I think the foster youth would say that, too. I think 35 states already have this. Our friends in all of our surrounding states have similar provisions. I think these foster youth have been through so much already. Like, if money is what's holding them back, that's not okay.
Thank you, ma'am, for your testimony.
Thank you.
Our next witness will be Janae Boone. What's that? We need to move. We're going to break in 15 minutes. Yeah. Janae Boone.
Janae is Priya's foster sister, and she unfortunately is in testing right now, so she was hoping to come later in the day, but it won't work out.
Miss, if you don't mind, Rep. Schmidt had a question since Janae Boone's not here.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Chair, and thank you for your testimony. I see the importance of this, but when we're cobbling together a budget, sometimes bills that are in the hopper have a little bit more complicated issues that need to be addressed outside the budget. So just because this may not make it in the budget, please do not lose hope, because it still is a working bill, and you and your junior leagues across Ohio can mount some campaigns to hopefully get this addressed in some way. So please do not lose hope.
Thank you so much.
Want to double back and see if any folks have come in that we called earlier. Is Tony Seegers here? I do not see Tony. Melinda Witten? Tony Love? Or Amy Albieri? Okay. For those who came in a little later, we're going to break for each of our caucuses to meet. We will resume at 2 p.m. with the intention of voting on the omnibus amendment. Until then, the committee will be in recess until the call of the chair. Thank you. At this time, I will now call the Finance Committee back into order, and the chair recognizes Vice Chair Davila for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to amend substitute House Bill 96 with Amendment 2698-1.
Will the Vice Chair please describe the amendment?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. The amendment reflects additional House changes for the state operating bill. Members, you can find the breakdown of those changes on your iPads, and the public is able to view these changes on the House Finance Committee tab of the Ohio Legislature website.
Understanding that we will soon have a vote on the substance and merits of the overall bill, are there any objections to accepting the omnibus amendment? Hearing none, the omnibus amendment is accepted. At this time, we'd like to ask if Ranking Member Sweeney, before we vote on the full bill, would like to make a statement.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to actually all members of the finance team. I know this is a laborious process, and for at least us, we're almost at the finish line. I did want to acknowledge that since I started in 2018, I have voted for every budget so far, and unfortunately, our caucus will not be here yet. And I think that just boils down to, at this point, we have simply 2 different versions of what the Ohio budget should be. And I'm sure we'll have ample debate to have that on the floor tomorrow. But I did just want to take a moment that despite that, I do want to acknowledge my appreciation for all the members of the finance team, and especially the chair of finance, who I think ran a very thorough and efficient process, who was open and transparent. In my time, that's not always the case, and I think that's how government should work, is that we've had a lot of discussion. There's plenty of good things that I really like in this, and there's some things you'll hear our thoughts on tomorrow that I think we can improve. And I also just want to acknowledge that even from where we went from the sub-bill to the omnibus bill is a reflection of heeding the input of members of the general public, and there's some good things changed because of that. And so I hope as this budget continues down that path, that it continues to go down a path where we maybe can eventually get to a bipartisan budget. But it doesn't take away from the work that has happened. And I'm just grateful for the leadership of the chairman. And we've had a lot of parties, members on both sides that have worked together on some things that are really important to Ohioans. And I just don't want that to take away from the disagreements. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Sweeney. And I'll just add, I want to thank all the members. We've had some very long hearings over the last couple of months. Great questions from both sides of the aisle. I want to thank all the staff, all the advocates, all the witnesses. Like we said, we tried to lay out a process at the beginning of this that people could rely on in terms of the schedule, in terms of timing, and I appreciate you working with us to make sure that we could stick to that. We're going to have more discussion, obviously, tomorrow on the floor about the substance and merits of the bill. But I just really appreciate everybody's work in getting us to a good process. I want to thank Vice Chair Davila especially, has been involved in budgets for far longer than I, and has been a great source of wisdom and feedback and help along the way. And I will echo what Rep. Sweeney said. You know, we, regardless of what the vote totals are or are not tomorrow, the bill that we have does incorporate a lot of discussion and meetings between myself and the ranking member, and we have included an awful lot of certain priorities from both parties, and I think that is to be commended. I would now recognize Vice Chair Davila for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the House Finance Committee favorably report amended substitute House Bill 96 and recommend its passage.
Will the Vice Chair please describe the amendment? Or did we already do that?
We're set to go.
We're ready to roll. Okay. It helps if I'm on the right page of my script, probably. Will the clerk please call the roll on House Bill 96?
Stewart.
Here. Yes. Long day.
Davila.
Yes.
Sweeney.
No.
Abrams.
Yes.
Baker.
No.
Byrd.
Yes.
Callender.
Yes.
Glassburn.
No.
Grimm.
No.
Hall.
Yes.
Hoops.
Yes.
Isaacson.
No.
Gerald.
No.
John.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Manning.
Yes.
Picklentonio.
No.
Plummer.
Yes.
Ray.
Yes.
Ritter. Sorry. Robinson.
No.
Romer.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Sims.
No.
Thomas.
Yes.
Troy. White.
Yes.
Williams. Willis.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
With 19 affirmative votes and 10 negative votes, this bill will be favorably reported to the Rules and Reference Committee. I grant LSC harmonizing authority for the committee report. The vote will not be open following committee, so please sign your name on the sheet before you leave so that your vote counts. Additionally, if you wish to add your name as a co-sponsor, please write an asterisk next to your name. Omnibus copies, I believe, are being taken out of a box right now for folks to take with them. The bill, now that's been adopted, will be online now or very shortly thereafter. Seeing no further business for the committee now stands adjourned.